Hello students. So last class discussion was on memory system as we are in module 3. So last class discussed about the basic concepts of memory system and how the memory is connected to the processor and how memory and processor are going to interact each other, right? So in today's class, let me discuss the semiconductor RAM memories. So the concept is again very important here. That is semiconductor RAM memories. So as you know, the semiconductor memories are available in a wide range of speeds. Means whatever the memories we are having today. So most of the memories are semiconductor RAM memories, and the semiconductor RAM memories are available in a wide range of speed. Means different semiconductor memories are available with different speeds, and their cycle times normally range from 100 nanosecond to less than 10 nanosecond, means that much speed they are. And when the initially they were introduced, actually they were first introduced in late 1960s. So when they were first introduced, so they were much more expensive than the magnetic core memories. Now they are completely replaced these magnetic core memories. So because of the rapid advantage in VLSI, that is a very large scale information technology. So because of rapid advantage, that is because of rapid advances in VLSI, the cost of semiconductor memories has dropped dramatically. As a result, they are now used almost exclusively in the implementing memories. Means most of the memories that are implemented today, so they are based on the semiconductor memories. So in this section, as we'll discuss the main characteristics of the semiconductor memories, then we start by introducing the way that number of memory cells are organized inside a chip and all, right? Now let us see the internal organization of these memory chips. Here the memory cells are usually organized in the form of an array. As you can see, the memory chips or memory cells are arranged in terms of a array here. So these are all the memory cells. As these memory cells are arranged sequentially, so we can say that these memory cells are usually organized in the form of an array in which each cell is capable of storing one bit of information. For example, if you take this memory cell, so it is capable of storing one bit of information. So this memory cell is capable of storing one bit of information. So each and every memory cell is capable of storing one bit of information. So a possible organization is illustrated here in this figure. Here each row of cells constitute a memory word, and all cells of a row are connected to a common line which is referred to as a word line. As you can say, for example, C. So these are what the memory cells which are organized in the form of array, where each memory cell is capable of storing one bit of information. So the collection of these memory cells or collection of these memory bits is known as a word. And when these cells are uh, connected to a common line, so this line we can name it as word line, where each word line is capable of storing one word of information, right? So which is driven by the address decoder on a chip. Means this word line is driven by the address decoder on the chip. Here the cells in each column are connected to a sense or a write circuit by 2 bit lines. Means the memory cells in each column, memory cells in each column, they are connected to a sense or write circuit by 2 bit lines. Here you can see 2 bit lines, right? So these are what 2 bit lines. The sense or write circuit are connected to the data input bar output lines. So here the memory cells in a column are connected to a sense or write circuit by these two bit lines, and each sense or write circuit in turn it is connected to the data input output lines of the chip. Here, during a read operation, these circuits sense or read the information which is stored in the cells selected by a word line, and it transmit this information to the output data lines. And during a write operation, the sense or write circuits receive the input information and store it in the cells of the selected word. This is how it performs. So this figure is an example of a very small memory chip consisting of 16 words of 8 bits each. So we'll consider this as means we'll consider this figure as a very small memory chip consisting of 8 that is 16 words of 8 bits each. Consider consider this illustration as a very small memory chip consisting of 16 words of 8 bits each, right? So this is referred to as a 16 bar 8 organization, means this memory chip, as it consists of 16 words of 8 bits each, so it is normally referred as 16 by 8 organization. Now the data input and the data output of each sense or write circuit are connected to a single bidirectional data line that can be connected to the data bus of a computer. Now two control lines, read or write bar and CS, that is a control signal, that are provided in addition to the address and data lines. Then the read or write input specifies the required operation, and the chip select input it will select a given chip in a multi-chip memory system. So this I'll discuss later, right? Here the memory circuit as it is shown in the previous figure, it will store 128 bits, and it require 14 external connection for address, data and control lines. Of course, it also needs two lines for the power supply and the ground connection. Now consider a slightly large memory circuit, one that has 1K memory cells, that is 1024 memory cells. This circuit can be organized as 128 bar 8, that is 128 by 8 memory, which will require a total of 19 external connections. Alternatively, the same number of cells can be organized into 1K by 1 format. So in this case, a 10-bit address is needed, but there is only one data line, which will resulting in 15 external connections. So next figure will show such an organization here. Here, the required 10-bit address is divided into two groups of 5 bits each to form the row and column addresses for the cell array. A row address select a row of 32 cells, all of which are accessed in parallel. However, according to the column address, only one of these cells is connected to the external data lines by output multiplexer and input demultiplexer. So commercially available memory chips contain a much larger number of memory cells than the examples. So here you can see one more organization of 1K by 1 memory chip. So the required 10-bit address is divided into two groups of 5 bits each to form a row and column address for the shell array here. And a row address select a row of 32 shells, all of which are accessed in parallel. However, according to the column address, only one of these shells is connected to the external data line by the output multiplexer and the input multiplexer. Usually, the commercially available memory chips contain a much larger number of memory cells, which are shown in this figure as well as in the previous figure. Here we use the small examples to make the figures easy to understand, right? And larger chips have essentially the same organization as it is shown in this figure, but they will use a large memory cell array and have more external connections. For example, a 4M bit chip may have a 512K by 8 organization, in which case a 19 address and 8 data input output pins are needed. And chips with a capacity of hundreds of megabits are now available. So this is all about this organization of the memory chips. As we have seen two organization here. One is organization of bit cells in a memory chip, and one more is organization of a 1K by 1 memory chip. So these are all the examples for the semiconductor memories. Next important concept is the static memories. The memories that consists of circuits capable of retaining their state as long as the power is applied, that are known as static memories. So I hope this term is clear. What is mean by static memories? Static memories are nothing but the memories that consist of the circuit capable of retaining their state as long as the power is applied. So such memories are known as static memories. So one of the static memory shell, that is static RAM shell, is illustrated here. So this will show how a static RAM shell is implemented. Here two inverters are cross connected to form a latch, and the latch is connected to 2 bit lines by the transistors T1 and T2. These transistors act as the switches that can be opened or closed under the control of the word line. When the word line is at ground level, the transistors are turned off and the latch retains its state. For example, let us assume that the cell is in state 1 if the logic value at point x is 1 and at point y it is 0. So this state is maintained as long as the signal on the word line is at the ground level. So this is how the static memories work. Now let us see how the read and the write operations are performed in the static memories. First to take read operation. So in order to read the state of SRAM cell, that is static RAM cell. So in order to read the state of static RAM cell, the word line is activated to close the switches T1 and T2. If the cell is in a state 1, then the signal on the bit line B is high and the signal on the bit line B dash is low. The opposite is true if the cell is in state 0. Hence, B and B dash are the components of, means they are complements. Here B and B dash are complements of each other. Here sensor write circuit at the end of bit lines monitor the state of B and B dash and set the output accordingly. This is how read operation is performed here. Then the write operation. The state of the static RAM cell is set by placing the appropriate value on the bit line B and its complement on B dash, and then activating the word line. This forces the shell into corresponding state. Now the required signals on the bit lines are generated by sensor write circuit. This is how the write operation is performed here. I hope this is clear how the write operation is performed. So next important concept is a CMOS cell. A CMOS cell realization. So a CMOS realization of the cell is shown here. This is an illustration of the CMOS cell. Here the transistor pairs, that is T3, T5 and T4, T6, that will form the inverters in the latch. The state of the cell is red or written as just explained, means as I explained the previous slide. So in the same way the state of cell is red or written. For example, in the state 1, the voltage at point X is maintained high by having the transistor T3 and T6 on, while T4 and T5 are off. Hence, if the T1 and T2 are turned on, that is, if they are closed, then bit lines B and B dash will have the high and low signals respectively. Here, the power supply voltage, that is a V supply, is 5 volt in older CMOS shells, or now 3.3 volt in the new low voltage versions. Here you can note that the continuous power is needed for the shell to retain its state. So if the power is interrupted, then the cell's content will be lost. So when the power is restored, the latch will settle into a stable state, but it will not necessarily be the same state that the cell was in before the interruption. Hence, SRAM, that is static RAMs, are said to be volatile memories because their contents are lost when the power is interrupted. Means whenever the power gone, uh, static RAMs are going to lose their contents. That's why they are known as volatile memories. So here, a major advantage of CMOS static RAMs is their low power consumption because the current flows in the cell only when the cell is being accessed. Means it will consume the power, or it will consume the current, or current will flow in the cells only when the cell is on. That's why we can say that that is a major advantage in case of CMOS static RAMs because they consume very low power. Otherwise, T1, T2 and one transistor in each inverter are turned off, ensuring that there is no active path between the V supply and the ground. Here static RAMs can be accessed very quickly. So access times of just a few nanoseconds are found in the commercially available chips. And static RAMs are used in the applications where the speed is of the critical concern. So these are what some of the major advantages of CMOS static RAMs. Next is asynchronous DRAMs, asynchronous dynamic RAMs, right? Here static RAMs are fast, but they come at a very high cost because their cells require several transistors. So less expensive RAMs can be implemented if the simpler cells are used. However, such cells do not retain their state indefinitely. Hence, they are called as the dynamic RAMs, that is the DRAMs in common. The information which is stored in the dynamic memory cell is in the form of a charge on a capacitor, and this charge can be maintained for only tens of milliseconds. Since the cell is required to store the information for a much longer time, and its contents must be periodically refreshed by restoring the capacitor charge to its full value. An example of a dynamic memory cell that consists of a capacitor C and a transistor T, which is shown in this particular figure. So, in order to store the information in this cell, the transistor T is turned on and an appropriate voltage is applied to the bit line. So, this will cause a known amount of charge to be stored in the capacitor. After the transistor is turned off, the capacitor begins to discharge. So this is caused by the capacitor's own leakage resistance and by the fact that the transistor continues to conduct a tiny amount of current which is measured in picoamperes after it is turned off. Hence the information stored in a shell that can be retrieved correctly only if it is read before the charge on the capacitor drops below some threshold value. So during a read operation, the transistor in a selected cell is turned on and a shunt amplifier connected to the bit line that detects whether the charge stored on the capacitor is above the threshold value. If so, it drives the bit line to a full voltage that represents the logic value 1. So this voltage recharges the capacitor to the full charge that correspond to the logic value 1. If the shunt amplifier detects that the charge on the capacitor is below the threshold value, then it pulls the bit line to the ground level, which ensures that the capacitor will have no charge, representing the logic value 0. Hence, reading the contents of the shell automatically refresh its content, and all the shells in a selected row are read at the same time, which refreshes the content of the entire row. So the detailed implementation of this amplifier circuit is beyond the scope of our discussion, right? So this is all about the asynchronous DRAMs. So that is the asynchronous dynamic RAMs. So in the next class, I am going to take an illustration of internal organization of a DRAM, that is a dynamic memory chip, and that I will discuss in detail. Thank you.